that I'm here with my, I would say good friend, but like I haven't had you on the show before, so it feels kind of like a lie. But good friend Tyler Forness from A to Z Sportsman. How you doing?
All right, you know what? That's a better introduction than Luke Braun would get, so I'm going to take it and run. Things are good. I'm the state fair is tomorrow, and I'm excited to engorge myself in about 30,000 calories.
All right, I had a whole idea for a podcast. Screw that. What is your favorite or most anticipated food at the state fair right now? It doesn't even have to be a food you've had before, but what are you looking forward to the most?
So I'll give my favorite food first. It's the turkey to go turkey sandwich.
Come on, dog.
God, that sandwich is so good.
Can't be doing this at the top of the show.
No, this isn't a bit. So this stuff is deep fried in peanut oil, so it's actually juicy. It's not like a Thanksgiving turkey, completely different. But I do realize why you think it's a bit. I love the sandwich. They had it at Target Field for a couple years, and I would get it every single time. But it's right next to the milk stand. I've loved that thing.
The milk stand is outstanding.
Oh, it's great. But yeah, it's legitimately my favorite food. It is not a bit. I think.
Okay. So like, is it a whole turkey that they deep fry, then slice up and put in the sandwich, or like what's the or the slices then deep fried? Like how is that?
So it's not sliced. It's almost like shredded / pulled. It almost appears in like
me, my guy. You're not selling me.
it kind of appears like chunks. It's honestly phenomenal. I really can't explain it.
Is there gravy in the sandwich?
No.
Okay. Now I'm so intrigued that you like the sandwich. No gravy. It is. What else is in the sandwich? Mayo at least?
Nope. Bun, turkey, and then they have barbecue sauces and seasonings on the side that you can put on. It's just it's a special,
that's
delicious
crazy
sandwich. It's not bland though. That's the thing where I know your bit is turkey is bland. It's super overrated, which on Thanksgiving food, I completely understand the take. I think there's merit to it. This is not a Thanksgiving turkey.
If it was an equally juicy and succulent fried chicken sandwich, would it be worse?
If all things were equal as far as preparation, I'd say it would be about the same. Like,
wild.
It's really, really good. I don't know if you're a state fair person, but if you go try a sandwich. I will even buy it.
I for sure will. I mean, like, I gotta put my money where my mouth is. I would have to try a sandwich. I don't know that I'll be able to make it this year. I don't know. I got time, but yeah, no. If I do, I'd make it about once every 2-3 years. Yeah. So if I do, I'll try that next to the milk stand. Okay. So now, what are you most eagerly anticipating? Maybe that you haven't tried before.
So there's a new item that is absolutely degenerate stuff. That you would probably find, I don't know, in like Texas. It is an Uncrustable burger.
It's immediately sold.
It's 2 deep fried Uncrustables as buns, and it's a cheeseburger. I'm going with my family. We go every year on the first day. We get there at open. We're psycho degenerates.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude.
It's always just been a tradition because the first day is usually the slowest.
Is it? Oh, I would have thought the opposite.
And the grounds are like they're still grass where they're supposed to be. It's not all trampled over.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's relatively clean too. Plus, when we were kids, you get a bunch of like happy hour style discounts on all the tickets for rides and stuff.
So you got like a bunch of really great memories. Yeah.
But it's such a degenerate item. There's no way you'd be able to finish the whole thing because you wouldn't want to eat for like hours, and that's not the point of the fair.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever had a Luther burger, like with the 2 Krispy Kreme donuts as the buns?
Absolutely. There's a spot in Fargo. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Garage or something. Sicky's Garage. And they have like 50 different burgers, and one of them is just the donut burger. I would get that all the time. It's tremendous.
Yeah. So that's kind of what that reminds me of. Cause like, I made a Luther burger because I was just like, look, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make, as much as I can from scratch. Obviously I ordered Krispy Kreme, so I didn't make the donuts, but, I couldn't fit. I fell asleep. Like I ate half of it. And I just got the itis so bad that I had to stop, and I fell asleep. And that's when I could house way more food back then. So you're telling me this is probably more of that experience than the Luther burger?
Yeah. So what I'm hoping to do is, because there's going to be 6 of us, we buy one and then we all try it. So that's the joy of going with a group, because if there's new foods, you can just try a little bit. Like, we get one of those big things from the Mousetrap, like the big things at cheese curds that cost like $20.
Yeah.
But
the Mousetrap is an elite pull on that one. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. When you have 6 people though, you get just like enough cheese curds to like satisfy your craving for curds, but you don't have this overwhelming feeling of, I have made a huge mistake.
Right. Yeah. Well, especially because like you're going around, you're trying the hot dish on a stick, the bacon on a stick, the deep fried candy bars. And like, if you're crowded up on cheese curds,
yeah. Which I do have a take. I think the bacon on a stick is supremely overrated.
I think it is too. It's kind of like a 2013 relic of epic mealtime stuff. It is candy. Like
Yeah. This candy flavor. I'm like, no, I don't want like a candied flavor. Just give me a good piece of bacon. And I just think it ruins it. Like, there's a place for it.
But I do like candied bacon a lot. And when they like, what do they call it? Like, pork candy is when they turn the burnt ends into candy. Like, I like that, but I get what you're saying is like, that's the whole deal. The middle of the day, it feels kind of unusual.
Yeah, it's so they do the State Fair gimmick on Memorial Weekend, which happens to be around my wife's birthday because she's May 29th. And we go every year, and that's one of the stands that's open. I'm like, man, I don't want this. Give me something like really good. Like,
I think the last life-changing experience I had trying a new food at the State Fair was the first year they introduced deep fried candy bars. Euphoric experience. I was like, no way is this like better than just a warm candy bar. And by God, it is. It's so good.
It's so good. The one like kind of like religious experience that you're talking about that I had, they don't have it anymore because people were stupid and kept burning themselves. Lulu's Public House in the Old Heritage Square, they made a breakfast Juicy Lucy that they called the Juicy Lulu, which was like two pieces of like sourdough toast. And then in the middle was, instead of being burger, it was breakfast sausage stuffed with cheese. And yeah, it's as good as you think.
I can see how a bunch of people burn themselves.
But we're Minnesotans. We know what a Juicy Lucy does, and they warn you. And they still took it away. I'm like, come on. This was one of like probably my all-time favorite like non-staple food that they've ever done, and they haven't brought it back in like 4 years.
Rip to a real one. That sucks. All right, I guess we got to talk about the Vikings or whatever.
Yeah, I suppose.
All right, so you've been to camp 4 days, which is 4 days more than me, and you were able to watch joint practices. Can you tell me just a little bit about like that experience, being able to watch that?
So it's different every year I've gone. A couple years ago, I had the unfortunate privilege of sitting next to Luke for practices. They had
that sucks, dude. I'm sorry.
I know. They had the fields parallel to the bleachers. And this year they were perpendicular, so it was a lot harder to see.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, I wonder, like, kind of to myself, I'd have to ask somebody in the building, but I wonder if they flip it for like wear and tear on the grass. And so it's like a different wear and tear every year.
I think that makes sense. And I think that there would be like a good reason for that. My personal theory is that they're just having too much difficulty getting fans to not videotape practices and highlights from the stands. And it's just worse if you do it perpendicular. And
they still do it anyways. We all know the people who do it regularly. I think my boss wanted me to take some video for like B-roll. And I'm just like, I can't get anything because they're so far away.
Yeah.
So it made it difficult for me because I couldn't see the trenches very well. While like a lot of the beat writers can talk more about what's going on in the trenches. If you see a play get blown up, sometimes you just cannot see who did it. So a lot of what I wrote about, it wasn't trench related because I wasn't confident that I was seeing everything 100%.
Right. Yeah.
So that was the tough part, but
hold on. So one of my hacks when I used to go to training camp regularly was to take binocs. Man, did you get binoculars?
No.
You got to do it, man.
So one of the issues I have is because I'm an absolute sicko degenerate, I write my training camp notes article on my phone while I'm watching practice.
Oh, that is sicko degenerate. I hate that.
But the cool part is the second practice is over, I take 2 minutes and I publish it, and I beat everybody else by a few hours. And then I generate a ton of traffic, which makes me look good. So that's part of the reason why I do it that way. Like,
I can't condone this. I understand the incentive structure here. I understand that it helps you. I just have an ethical objection to using a phone for that.
That's completely fair. Maybe I'll do it. Like, we're still working on trying to get a credential. And if that ever happens, then I'll just end up taking notes and going to the media room and typing up real quick, and no problem. But that's kind of how my process has been, especially because it's an hour and 5 minutes to an hour and a half drive home at that time of day for me.
Yeah, no, that does track. I follow that. That makes sense. Yeah. I like one of the, I mean, in kind of the same vein, one of the, I don't know if hack is the right word, but I got a lot less out of player interviews because, like, as you and I know, it's not the kind of story I write where I involve a lot of player interviews. And so I would skip the half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour of player and sometimes even coach interviews in between practices, go directly to the media room and type things up. And so that's how I would get first publish a lot, but that requires access to a media room. So I understand it's not really the same procedure for you. Although, man, the laptops with their battery life these days, I sound like such a boomer saying that. The Ryzen AI 300 series chips, 700 series chips, 500 series chips, such good battery management that if you're in the market for a new laptop, you can optimize for battery life. And you can just type that up at the car, not worry about it. So I'm just letting you know that is an option in the future.
Yeah, it's something I'll consider because I think, well, the nice part is if I just turn my truck on, I can just plug it in. So I don't even have to worry about it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got like a work truck. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's an LTZ work truck, so it's got all the doohickeys.
Dude, I mean, like, of all the fancy features that they've added to like pickup trucks and stuff like that, most of them are like for non utility related reasons to like the classical idea of why you would use a work truck or whatever, which is like fine, whatever. But one of the I'm not going to say recent innovations, but one of the innovations that's really stuck out that is just plain useful for everybody's use case is the 120 volt AC outlet. That rules. I love that they have those.
When I had an 05 Silverado, and I specifically bought a cigarette port like attachment that had two 120 volt plugins and a couple USBs, so I could have that available to me. But like, especially if you go camping and you need to like blow something up, like a tube or something.
Yeah.
Ready to go. Because some trucks will have it in the bed where there will be a plug-in, but that's usually like when you get to like the higher end models.
Those are high. Yeah.
Yeah. Those,
but like some just have a 120 volt now, just in the console or even in the dash, like just to directly to, which is outstanding. Anyway,
my wife's car has one too. It's great.
That's crazy. That's awesome. I would love to have a car. All right. So we talked a little bit about kind of the drawbacks of the way that it's set up for you, but that's just from like the perspective of like a fan attending, and you know, maybe that'll change in future years, and it's kind of cool to get unique perspectives. But I just kind of wanted to know, like, you watched a couple of practices that were practices and a couple of practices that were joint practices. Can you tell me about kind of like the differences there, just in terms of the way they run practices, the level of intensity, the amount of information you get as somebody who's evaluating the Vikings?
So the non-joint practices, luckily both of them were padded practices. They weren't shells.
Okay, good.
Which allows you to get a lot more information because it's a lot more full speed, and you get, I mean, obviously you know all this stuff, but you get some stuff in the trenches. And even though I couldn't see everything, there was a good amount that I could see. And the joint practices, it was like a high-end Senior Bowl practice, where you're getting a ton of team. Yeah. You're getting a ton of 7-on-7, and the individual drills too. because of that, it helps you evaluate from a different perspective. And I think you gain more knowledge from these joint practices during the training camp process than you do any other single entity throughout the course of training camp in the offseason, because you're not just going up against guys
more than the preseason games.
Yes, I believe so.
You worded that very specifically, so I just wanted to clarify. Like, that sounds like you're going out of your way to include the preseason games.
Yes.
Yeah.
The preseason games are still valuable, but you get to see like ones on ones, twos on twos from another team, and you don't know what that other team is doing. So like the first day, McCarthy was fine. He had some struggles. Second day, he just ripped them apart because he basically had like a day on them, and he kind of figured some things out and made adjustments and looked tremendous on day 2. Where Drake May, he was better on day 1 and he was good on day 2, but you could tell that the defensive line just decided to go into God mode and destroy old friend Garrett Bradbury.
Yeah, whose dad you met, right?
Yeah, I was on my way to the Senior Bowl, and his dad saw that I was doing some writing at the bar. Cam comes up and talks to me, and I don't know who this guy is. I'm just being nice. And he's like, asked about the offensive line, asked what I think of Garrett Bradbury. I'm like,
just randomly, what do you think about, I don't know, Garrett Bradbury?
It clicked at the end, but I'm like, yeah, he's a solid starter. And he has his flaws. I don't think they're necessarily going to improve very much considering where he's at in his career, but I think you can mitigate him somewhat. And I think he's still a really good player. And he's like, oh, good. I'm glad you think that. He's my son.
What year did you say this?
2025. So this would have been in January.
You liar.
Really good. Might have been a slight embellishment. I didn't realize it was his dad until he said something. I just thought he was a solid starter, and I didn't think the Vikings would replace him this offseason.
Yeah, no, for sure. Do you really think he could be a good player for New England? Like, genuinely?
I think he'd be an upgrade over what they had last year.
That's not the bar. We both know that's not the bar.
I think he can be solid enough, but will he be good? Yeah.
See, this is what you get sitting next to Luke Braun. You get some of these bad takes absorbing into you.
Yeah, Bradbury's really good at what he's good at, but he's very bad at what he's not.
We both agree on that, at least. That is a characterization I think we both can agree with. Yeah. Reach block demon Garrett Bradbury. Yes. All right, so we get kind of a lot of information from these joint practices. You mentioned that like McCarthy had a much better day too. The way that beat writers were describing his second day of joint practices felt like they had like watched Patrick Mahomes, or maybe more accurately, like Josh Allen descend from the heavens to participate in a Vikings joint practice against the Patriots. Like it felt like we were like listening to a future MVP dissect God's defense or something. Like how good was it?
It was pretty good. I'm going to be real. There was at one point, I think he made 12 consecutive completions, and he only threw 18, 20 times throughout the course of the whole day, which I'm not like
20 throws and we're getting hagiographies about the legend of this practice.
Well, we're talking just in 11 on 11 and 7 on 7.
Sure.
He was just lighting them up. And I'm not like Judd, where Judd keeps track of every single practice and stuff.
He does. Yeah. He's got like those stats going, dude.
Mm-hmm. I think there's some value to it, but I also think there's no value at all. It's a really interesting kind of paradigm having that conversation, because it doesn't factor in how accurate those passes were, how catchable some of them were. I mean, I think that is more valuable to us than just the raw number itself. But I did really like what he did. I thought his process overall was really good. I thought he was reading the defense well. And the connection he has with Jordan Addison is growing exponentially.
Yeah, we're not going to find that out for like a month and a half.
It's starting to be like special, where they're finding each other in certain ways. And he's got a knack of knowing where Addison's going to be already in the course of the route, which that chemistry is really difficult to build in itself. So the fact that they have it this early, I think is just a tremendous sign. And I'm not worried about Jefferson. They're going to figure that out. And I bet they already have somewhat because they did workouts in the offseason. But the fact that it's there with Addison right now, I think is a really, really good sign, because if Jefferson keeps getting doubled, guess who's going to be on single coverage? And then that's how you can really take apart some defenses.
That rules, man. Anybody in the Patriots that stood out? Just like, I'm curious, anybody like impress you?
Yeah, Drake May's arm is tremendous.
He looked, I think, pretty bad in the preseason game.
Yeah.
Against the twos.
That offense still needs some work. They still need some adjusting. But his arm is so much fun to watch live. That was one reason why I really wanted to be there for joint practices. The other was literally everything else.
Yeah.
And
so he's got a good arm, and I agree with that. I think he's got a really tremendous arm. Did he look like a good player?
Yeah.
Okay.
The offensive line, I think, let him down a lot.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
He was doing a really good job of placing the ball in a lot of like tight windows and layering throws. I thought he just looked like a pro quarterback. Travion Henderson, real good player.
I've been hearing things about him. Yeah.
So, yeah. I will say one thing that I really took away is they kept torching the Vikings on wheel routes during practice.
Huh.
I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but I've got it locked in the back of my mind that maybe this could be something. The last thing I saw, which was obviously evident during Saturday's game, Efton Chisholm is just really good, and the Patriots did it again.
Yeah. Dog, I've been hearing Efton Chisholm hype since before the first preseason game, and then he goes off in the preseason week 1. Has a great. I think he currently leads receivers in preseason yards. Not that that's like an outstanding statistic or anything like that, but this guy has been absolutely. Is it okay? A lot of hype for Efton Chisholm. He also happens to be on the same team that the same team as a player who, as a receiver, also his rookie year generated an insane amount of hype as a preseason training camp superstar, Stephon Diggs. Mm-hmm. Given that the Patriots, from my understanding, aside from Diggs, don't have receivers, is it like Efton Chisholm? Maybe not like rookie of the year, but like Ladd McConkey-ish type. Like, not to compare a white guy to a white guy, but like Ladd McConkey he's a second round pick. It's not super, but like people loved him in the same way I think people loved Efton Chisholm. Should we be prepped for Efton Chisholm season? Like, are we going to have a good one?
I think we could. It depends if they want to use Kyle Williams more in the slot or at Z, because I think he could do both. The weird thing about that receiver room is it's Stephon Diggs and a bunch of really interesting guys that we just don't know how in the world they're going to stack. Like, apparently there's already buzz that, it came from Andrew Filipponi from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
We all know. But like Jalen Polk might be shopped, which, considering how things have gone in the conversations I had with some Boston media, maybe that's not like out of the question, because their receiver room is Diggs and a bunch of intrigue, but they have like 8 guys of intrigue. So who's actually going to stick around? And
yeah, Kyle Williams was like, I remember during this draft cycle, at some point, people were putting him in the first round. He cooled down before that, but generally speaking, it seemed like he was getting from draft analysts second round kind of valuation. He goes in the third. I think you're right that that's just like a lot of in my experience, like, this whole group of people is full of intrigue. Who knows? And like maybe one of them turns out. That's usually what happens. But
yeah,
I'm curious now.
I'm very curious, but I also think that with the news that came today that the Vikings are looking to trade for a receiver, maybe that's a room they get one from. Where,
but like who? Like, if it's like a Demario Douglas or a Mac Hollins, great, fine. I mean, Mac Hollins is weird. I don't want to deal with that. But like,
probably
on the
Kendrick
field,
Bourne.
That would rule. Actually, that would be good. Mm-hmm. That would be, because I'm just like looking at the rest of this roster and I'm like, I don't want Javon Baker or Boudet, or like, this sucks. Yeah, okay, Kendrick Bourne, I can live with that. All right, we've got technically, I guess, a preseason game coming up. So in some capacity, this will serve as our preview of the Titans Week 3 preseason game. But no, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the players that it'll impact. So I asked you before the show, like, hey, are there players that you definitely want to talk about? Are there position groups that you want to dig into? And, you mentioned a player that I've talked about a little bit that I like a lot. And then you mentioned a player that I was just not on my radar, right? Like, I read a super quick scouting report on him when he signed, and I've forgotten about him. So tell me about the Church of Dante Fleming, the Tyler Forness, Pope of the Dante Fleming Church.
So I don't necessarily think that Fleming is this like elite player. He's going to emerge to be like the superstar.
It sounds like the Vikings don't think that either, man.
Yeah, I get that. But the one thing that's interests me is every time I've seen him, like guys at that point of the roster really don't get a lot of opportunities. But throughout the course of like the 4 practices I went to, I think I saw like 5 really impressive catches. And considering the few opportunities he got, that really stood out to me. And I kind of described it, and you're going to have to bear with me because how I talk about this is more important than the framing I put it in.
Okay.
I kind of put him on like an Adam Thielen-ish path where he's on the practice squad for a year or two and then makes the roster as a special teamer. But I don't think he gets above like a wide receiver 4.
Right. You're not saying this guy's going to end up as one of the greatest undrafted free agents in the history of undrafted free agents.
Goodness, no. But he's shown enough to me in those little spurts to where I think that there's something there worth trying to develop. And it may never happen.
What are the things that he showed you? How warm he keeps the bench?
The ability to create separation, running deep, the ability to track the ball really well and catch it over his shoulder. All that kind of stuff he showed at Tulane because he did a lot of vertical type stuff in that offense. And
so he's a ball skills guy.
Yeah, big ball skills guy. He's not super big. He's slightly under 6 foot. He's about 180, 185 pounds.
Classic Tulane receiver. My God.
Oh, big time. And I find it just interesting watching him, how those flashes have happened. And I keep thinking to myself, he's worth one of the 16 spots on the practice squad because you might be able to extract more.
So how many receivers do we think end up on the practice squad? Like 2, 3?
I think it'll be 3 or 4 if they only keep 4 or 5 on the active roster. And I think between the practice squad and the active roster, if we don't count Jordan Addison to start, because obviously he's going to be on the suspended list, I think you're looking at a total of 8.
All right. So Jefferson, Naylor, Ty Felton, those are the locks, right? I think we're pretty confident Lucky Jackson's going to make it. That's 4.
Mm-hmm.
And are the rest of the guys that we're about to talk about practice squad guys, or you see another guy making it, like Miles Price or something?
I think Miles Price could make it as a returner, but I think that's going to depend on if Ty Felton has a bounce back against the Titans.
Okay.
Because that fumble against the Patriots really stung, but I think they want him to have both jobs. But Price had 3 really good returns. So that's kind of hard to deny. But either way, I think Price probably lands on the practice squad. I think Jashawn Jones will land on the practice squad. I've liked a decent amount of what I've seen from him, but it's been inconsistent. And
then after that, Dante Fleming, or is there like another receiver I'm forgetting about?
Personally, I don't think he will end up on the practice squad. I think he should.
Okay.
I think Thayer Thomas will end up there again. And it would not shock me to see Tim Jones because he's got $500,000 guaranteed and they can at least offset some of that.
All right. That Tim Jones take makes a little bit of sense. Okay. Backup offensive lineman, anyone stand out? Are you a Joe Huber stan? Are you a Michael Juergens proponent?
I've been impressed with Juergens. His first preseason was a good game and then a bunch of garbage. So the fact that he's putting together a string of like good performances and good plays back to back to back has been really nice to see. And we know the Vikings think he's a starter. Kwesi told him that in his draft call. And that raised an eyebrow because it's like a
7th round pick, dog.
Yeah. A very crazy thing. But historically, and that means everything and absolutely nothing all at the same time, they found Matt Burke in round 6, who's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame at some point.
They found John Sullivan in round 6. I know, man.
Yeah. So maybe this is the next one.
They also
Probably
found David Yankee in round 5 and Jeff Baca in round 6 and Travis Bond in round 6. Come on, man.
I know. It's interesting. But the fact that Jurgens has shown some growth from last year to this year, I think is really important. And I think Joe Huber's been good. He's been good enough that you want to keep him around, but I don't think he's been good enough where you have to keep him on the active roster. The one spot that I find really interesting is swing tackle.
Yeah,
from what I've seen,
we haven't seen Justin Skule work with the twos, right? Because Darisaw's out, so we get Walter Rouse, we get Logan Brown has been playing a lot of that, right? So I don't know. I'm curious. What's your take?
I think Rouse has outplayed Skule in the little bit I've seen, but I think it's important. I think it's important that you note that context that Skule's been playing the ones, but he's been getting his butt destroyed by Jonathan Grenard. It hasn't even been close.
Yeah, speaking of like a Hall of Fame training camp performances, Jonathan Grenard is up there with the one JJ McCarthy practice we just talked about. But Jonathan Grenard, the whole camp. And that kind of reminds me of Everson's camp against Matt Khalil. Reminds me of the Stephon Diggs camp that I just mentioned. Who else had like a camp where you were like, after that, we got to put this guy in the Hall? Never Justin Jefferson, which is the crazy thing to me. Like, not once.
Diggs. I don't know if I can't remember.
No, I just brought up Diggs. Yeah.
Okay. Barr, his rookie year was pretty good.
Barr's camp rookie year was nice. That was fun. That was super fun. Yeah, I mean, I know Jared Allen teed off against Matt Khalil too. I think 2014, so like the year after he was drafted, I want to say. No, or was he at 2012? No, he's at
2012.
Okay, yeah, so 2013 then. Yeah, because Allen was not on the team in 14. So that was pretty big. But yeah, Harrison Smith's rookie year, that was supposed to be like an outstanding camp. Yeah, so like
Moss's rookie year was bonkers.
Yeah. I mean that one's a legendary one. They've got like documentaries about that. But yeah, that's what I'm feeling from Jonathan Grenard, who is admittedly playing against a backup tackle.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really impressed me about Rouse, and one thing that in turn concerns me about Dallas Turner, is over the course of like 3 days, he stonewalled him on all 4 reps. And it's concerning and also not concerning for Turner because he doesn't really win with speed to power. Like Jared Verse is a big speed to power guy where he'll just absolutely bulldoze you over. But Turner is a speed to leverage guy where he utilizes that speed but needs to get the proper leverage to be able to displace you because he just doesn't have that raw power. And Rouse just stonewalled him on all 4 of those reps. And I thought that was really impressive from him. And Turner, he just needs to be more comfortable doing other things than just try to do that speed to leverage, which is not going to work nearly to the effect that it did in the SEC. So I think Rouse's performances have been really solid. And I was wondering if maybe they would kick him inside to guard because he's kind of got that Blake Brandel thing where he's really solid.
Like 6'6".
Yeah. Walter Rouse is basically built like me, but an actual athlete.
I don't like every Oklahoma tackle. I just assume is like 6'6", 6'7", and 320 pounds with like 35-inch arms. That's my assumption for every Oklahoma tackle in my life. So
I classify him as a Stanford tackle because he spent 4 years with the Cardinal, and he's interesting because
did I get it right though? Was that what he is?
He did play at Oklahoma 1 year,
and he is 6'6". He's got 35-inch arms. He's got.
I think his arms are shorter than that, but the rest is right.
I'm not looking it up. I'm just gonna assume I'm right.
What else is new? I think the one thing, like the Blake Brandel comparison, is you can beat him with speed. He doesn't have the greatest foot speed, and I actually asked him because, fun fact,
you were like, "Hey, aren't you slow?"
Yeah. Well, so I told you about that
with Chad Greenway.
I told you about that State Fair gimmick on Memorial Weekend. He was actually at the one last year when he was going through all like rookie camp, and he was talking to like a bunch of kids and stuff. And my mom goes over him and says, "You should come meet my son. He writes about the Vikings." I'm like, "Mom, no." Like, I'm technically media. He doesn't want to talk to me. But he was he was very nice. And I just told him who it was. And I told him I was intrigued to watch his tape because I hadn't gotten to it yet. And I asked him, when you run a lot of that RPO stuff, how is that going to translate a lot to what Kevin O'Connell runs? He gave me a really cool answer talking about how a lot of the intricacies with their run game calls are similar. So it's not that difficult for him to kind of utilize that, where it's not like a ton of RPO stuff, but some of like their the blocking schemes that they use are very similar. So there's a nice transition point. But I just think speed is going to whip his butt. And I wonder how that's going to look if he ends up getting into a live game against ones, because that's where Brandel really struggled. And they gave him a ton of help in 2022 when Darrisaw missed some time with those concussions. So I'm curious how that ends up working out. But I do think he's been better than School. But hopefully neither one of them have to play, and Darrisaw just starts week 1, which feels like the vibe at this point.
Yeah, it seems to be the way that's headed. Gavin Bartholomew going to start the season popped, do we think? Is that...
I mean, I've heard no different. I don't think you have either.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you keep more up to date, I think, than I do. So I just wanted to check in.
I think he's going to start on the pup. And at that point, I mean, who knows? Like, this tight end room's in really interesting. Because
gut check. Do you think it's Vanette, Urasek, or is it just like 2 tight ends?
I wonder if they end up choosing to keep Vanette and Urasek and maybe moving on from CJ Ham, which sounds like sacrilege.
Wrongo.
But Vanette can do a lot of the CJ Ham stuff. He would come cheaper. And then you can keep Urasek and not expose him, because I think he's shown enough to be worth continuing that investment in. And at one point he was viewed as like a potential top 50 pick. And then he went to Georgia and it looked like his career just died.
Yeah, he was on like almost every combine snub list that I saw too. Like he's been getting snubbed. He's been a perpetual almost. So which I guess is kind of characteristic of a lot of these waiver claims. I don't know. I'm gonna be writing a piece on the likelihood of waiver claims based on certain characteristics. We'll see where Urasek ends up on that list. But Vikings are, if it is the case that the Vikings may be concerned about him not being able to clear waivers, that would be at least interesting. So not a huge Bryson Nesbitt guy.
He'll be fun if he goes to the CFL and becomes like an X receiver, but that's about it.
Fair enough. I'm going to assume that you're on the Xavier Scott train along with everybody else, so I'm just going to move to the defense.
I will say this about the Xavier Scott, Ty Chandler thing.
Yeah.
They really trust Ty Chandler on special teams. So
you've seen Luke talk about that though, right? Like how Xavier Scott plays exactly the same role as Ty Chandler.
But it's how much confidence they have. And if they have enough confidence in him to remove Chandler from that role, I think they end up keeping him.
Dope. All right, let's talk about the defense. You wanted to talk about Elijah Williams. It sounded like in the pre-show I was talking over you, which is not unusual for me. And so I think I heard you say that you've been on this guy for months.
Yes.
So okay, just to give context for this. So Elijah Williams, HBCU, FCS, I think, right? Yep. You can tell me about his backstory and stuff like that. The reason I want to give context is this guy was not, in the way that I do charting for this kind of stuff, an undrafted free agent. He had to make the team from tryouts, and tryout invitees rarely catch anybody's radar, and very often the vast majority of tryout invitees are not anywhere near something like the consensus board, which in most years runs 600 to 800 players deep. A lot of undrafted free agents are on the consensus board, but tryouts are rarely ever on the consensus board, unless it's like, what the hell? What's going on? Why didn't he get drafted? Kind of, and it's like, oh, there's like a character issue that none of us knew about, so he has to try out now. Pretty rare, and so getting a beat on a guy that was not on the consensus board, as far as I could tell, was not even an undrafted free agent, is like fascinating. So tell me about him.
So I need to provide some context. I didn't really become enamored with him until he signed with the Vikings, and I got into his backstory. But I was really intrigued, and he was the one guy I wanted to keep an eye on during camp. Because
they grabbed another guy out of tryouts too, like a linebacker. I don't think he's on the team right now, though.
Matt Harmon, they cut him right before mandatory minicamp because Gavin Bartholomew had a hurt back, and they brought in the Italian stallion, Giovanni Ricci. So I wanted to
Matt Harmon, like the
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I'm
6'6",
glad. I'm glad that no shade to you, Matt Harmon, the linebacker. I'm glad they cut you. It's so confusing, man. It's like when the Vikings had a Mike Zimmer on the team.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Brian Flores spoke to the media. We're recording this Wednesday. He spoke on Tuesday, where he gave credit to finding Elijah Williams to Durante Jones, pass game corner DB's coach. And the connection, which I think has a lot to do with how teams will find guys. Jones went to Morgan State. So there's a connection like, hey, we should take a look at this guy. And then they brought him in, and Marcus Dixon, the D-line coach, told O'Connell, because O'Connell spoke about him a couple times already, that you need to watch this guy. This guy's got something.
So we think someone at Morgan State is like, hey, we've got an alum on a team. Let's tell him about the all-time sack leader.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But O'Connell then is like, I don't really choose to watch an hour and a half of D-line one-on-ones with my free time. But he liked what he saw. They brought him in. And whenever you have a guy that in college had 33 sacks and 52 tackles for loss, there's intrigue there.
Yeah.
But he came to Morgan State as an edge. That's why his movement skills are the way he is.
Yeah.
And he's now at like 295, even though the Vikings list him at 270, which is just wild. His agent's that's wrong.
At the combine, so at Morgan State, I think he was listed at 270. At the combine, he was, or HBCU combine, I should say. He was 285 or 288 or something like that. So he's just been on this journey of gradually adding mass.
And Mike, when you have this kind of production, even if it's at the HBCU FCS level, which is 3 tiers below the NFL, because you have the Power 4, the Group of 5, and then the FCS.
Yeah.
How much is that going to translate, and how much does that matter?
That's crazy that you skipped entirely over the UFL there.
Yeah, that's intentional. Canadian Football League is above that. Hey, go Blue Bombers, baby. It's really interesting to try and see how that production is going to matter, because it could matter a lot or it could matter not at all. We just don't know, because he hasn't actually faced any kind of high level of competition that we can use to translate. And then you also have to ask the question, if he was that productive, why did he stay 4 years at Morgan State, and why didn't he transfer up? Was it a personal decision? Is it like a family legacy that everybody goes to Morgan State? Did nobody decide that this guy was worth their time as far as the transfer portal? To me, that was another interesting question and a variable that we could try and answer. So,
right, which is not to say it's necessarily a negative, but it is a question that the answer might reveal something positive or negative about him.
Yeah. And that's been like my big thing with JJ McCarthy. There's just a lot of questions we've never gotten answers to. And I've always been measured in my discussions on him because I want to see it. And with Williams, it was kind of the same way. So he gets to practice and I'm like, hey, this guy looks like he's popping a little bit, but hard to see. Don't really know 100%. And then I'm at the game on the 9th against the Texans and he's popping. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to this. I put on the all 22. Yep. He's got really good hands. He's got juice. He's got power. He's got way better movement skills than most guys who are 290 pounds.
Okay, so that's the thing that really got me, because like he absolutely looks like he's got these fantastic movement skills. He looks like he's moving at 270 pounds and not at 290 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. And his HBCU testing, and from what I understand, his pro day testing, mediocre. I was like, I'm so fascinated by that.
Maybe like we keep hearing that like Sam Howell is a gamer, maybe it's just different for him when he's
Wait,
in
his
pads and he's
first
on a
step
track.
activates as soon as the lights come on.
Maybe it's just a comfort thing where it just feels different because some guys just can never figure out the track element where a lot of
that
guys
is true. No, that is true. Like track training but like, so my approach to that, to cut you off again, like I love to do, my approach to that is like, so you're correct that like a player won't get any more athletic, speedier as a player, but they can shave a significant amount of time off their 40, more than a tenth of a second, just by track training and getting a good understanding of the combine start and the steps, and keeping lane discipline and not weaving, stuff like that. Just like a week of track training from a technical perspective can improve your 40 time without changing your actual ability to move downfield. But my kind of approach to that is, well, okay, if that's the case, and I think it is, we have tons of data points for why that's the case. Does that mean that you're not coachable? That if I try to teach you technique, you can't incorporate it? Because now the 40 time isn't telling me how fast you are, but it is telling me something about as important. And so that's kind of how I think about that in that circumstance. And I feel like that's not a crazy way to approach that.
I think you make a good point. I think that it creates more variables, and then you kind of just have to answer them over the course of time within the building. The one thing that I thought was really interesting was some of the stuff that he's got is so technique based, where you would expect a guy that comes from the FCS level to just not have great technique. This dude knows how to use hands. He knows how to throw them. He knows where to throw them, and they pack a punch. One of his best reps on Saturday was against the ones, the first team offensive line for the Patriots.
Yeah, but like, this is the Patriots, so.
I know, but it's still first teamers in the NFL, however you want to kind of view that. But Williams is just, this guy feels like he's having a Jalen Redmond type camp where you just can't keep him off the roster. So do you just say screw it and roster 6 offensive or defensive linemen, or just hope that like, and you'll understand what I mean when I say it, that Levi Drake Rodriguez's injury is bad enough where you can just put him on IR and then figure it out in 4 weeks. Because it just feels like he's getting to a point of where this guy's just undeniably has earned a spot on the roster, and you just got to use roster math to figure it out.
Do you think that a guy who did not get a contract and was a tryout player is a waiver risk?
I think anybody who has as good of a preseason as he did, paired with the joint practice element, I think is potentially a waiver risk.
I'm so curious about this. I've got this is part of the piece that I'm writing, is that I'm tracking, I think going all the way back to 2015, all the waiver claims that were made and all the waivers, and cataloging where they ranked in the consensus board, whether they were drafted, whether they were a tryout. This is a intense process. There's a lot of looking up because no one ever tells you 3 years after the fact if someone's a tryout player. You just kind of have to remember or hope someone reported it in an article that is accessible, 3 years later, something like that. And I will say there is precedent for tryout rookies getting claimed. It is remarkably, let's see, Reggie Davis in 2017, Reginald Davis III, a wide receiver claimed off of waivers by Cleveland, was a tryout rookie, but he had a 62.1 PFF score in the preseason. So I have no idea what process led to that, but it is really rare. So I'm super curious about this whole approach.
So the way I'm approaching it is, I think, a little different than how you kind of presented your thought process and discussion. I'm looking at it from the fact that this dude just balled out all preseason. Maybe just don't expose that guy to waivers. Even I don't think at that point it matters to me if it's a draft pick or if it's a UDFA or if it's a guy who's been around for a few years. If he's that impressive during the preseason, just find a way to keep him on the roster, even if it's just for a week, and then maybe try to sneak him onto the practice squad. just keep your best players, the best performing players. And I think Williams has been one of them and has earned a spot on the roster, just like Jalen Redmond and Taki Taimani were last year, who both kind of came out of nowhere and earned roster spots and essentially made Levi Drake Rodriguez's entire year a redshirt year, playing just 7 defensive snaps. I think it's, when you look at the numbers that you present, I think it doesn't really matter who you necessarily expose, but a really good performance, and obviously social media and stuff isn't everything. Brian Baldinger's made 2 videos about this guy already.
No, actually, that's actually a pretty decent point. I do want to. I know that like it's kind of silly to be like, wow, a little social media buzz about this guy. Typically, that doesn't matter, but I think when it's somebody like Baldy who does have contacts with teams and who teams do follow, like I feel like people don't understand that like teams are way more interested in the input from media personalities that you may not even pay attention to than you would think, and way less interested in the input of media personalities that you might pay a lot of attention to, and for good reason, not like a Stephen A. Smith type, but like, somebody who does a bunch of deep dive analysis or whatever, right? Like a Ted Wynn. They might not pay. I'm not saying they don't pay attention to Ted Wynn. In fact, Ted Wynn has introduced me to a number of people who work for NFL teams that he's in contact with. But like, I think you get what I'm saying is that somebody like a Baldy, I think does have some connections to. So this is actually not a bad take here. And I love telling you that you have bad takes.
That is very true. You have no problem doing that. So the fact that somebody like Baldy, who really doesn't have any real connection to the Vikings other than he just loves to watch film and talk about cool things. The fact that he's talked about him twice in 2 weeks, to me, raises a red flag where if I really want to keep this guy around, I should probably not risk exposing him if I don't have to. And at the end of the roster, especially like with the receiver room, we got talks of the trade and stuff already earlier this morning. But if you have to put a couple extra wide receivers on the practice squad and just do some elevations to get you through, then I think you can do that and then use that extra roster spot for a guy like Williams and prevent putting yourself in jeopardy of losing him. And I would consider doing that because he's just been that good. And if you have only had your hands on him for 3 months, he's already showing this at the NFL level. What happens if you have him for 2 years? Can he be like your first guy off the bench and be a real rotational piece that gets you like 5 sacks a year? Like getting that from a UDFA alone, let alone a tryout guy, is just a massive feather in the cap for this front office. So I would do everything I can to try and keep this guy around, and that would be not exposing him.
So the way that he was used in college, and I haven't checked this in like a week or two since I last talked about him for that first preseason game, but I checked it out then. I want to say about 2/3 of his snaps were at defensive tackle, 1/3 of them in his final year of college, 1/3 of them were at edge rusher. And it seems like the further back you go, the more of his snaps were at edge rusher. I believe he started not like started, like he didn't get the start, but he began both of his performances in the preseason games technically on the edge, and then he quickly moved inside. This is how a lot of people, including the Vikings, have described the potential role that they envision for Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. And though the broadcast has been pretty optimistic about Ingram-Dawkins, I would argue that it has been a little bit more up and down in reality for him in the preseason games. Again, I haven't watched the practices, and honestly, we have not seen, in my opinion, from what I've read, that much reporting on how he's performed in practices. So my question is, maybe not this year, next year, could Elijah Williams just be Ty Ingram-Dawkins?
Yeah. I think that's a possibility. The one thing that I worry about with Ty Ingram-Dawkins is so much of his movement skills is linear. He doesn't really bend well, doesn't have a lot of that ankle flexion. He needs to kind of just beat you straight up, and that's a little limiting. I think Williams has a little bit more of that bend to him. I mean, it's not going to be a traditional bend. Like when we think of bend, we think of Von Miller bending the arc and just being parallel to the ground because he's insane.
Dude, I remember just a Von Miller story here. I remember a story coming out during the draft process of Von Miller running full speed at like a table, like that you get from like Rent a Center or something like that, just like a table, and bending fully underneath it full speed to go around the table like in a perch from the other. I just like. And you watch him play, and you're like, I see that. What in the world?
Damn. That's crazy.
Now, I'm afraid, like, I don't know the veracity of the story because this story is so amazing, right? That I would have imagined if it was true that it had gotten a lot more play. But I did hear that. And then Mike Green, who's off field, we're not going to talk about, did have a photo that went viral for football Twitter, I would say, last week with insane ankle flexion. So that's not the bend we're talking about.
Yeah. It's
but it's like Tom Johnson had pretty good bend.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. I think Williams is a little bit closer to that, and Tyler Dawkins is much more of a straight up guy, but he's really good at what he does. And I also find it fascinating. This might be a good angle for you at some point, Arif. The amount of 5 stars that are picked on day 3 just because they're 5 stars.
Oh, yeah. Their roster make rate based off of their. Oh, that's interesting. Because if they make the roster at a lesser rate, that means they're probably overrated just for being 5 stars. I like that.
I think Bill Belichick was on record talking about how they just end up taking 5 stars because they were viewed so highly as recruits. I think there's a little more nuance to what he was saying, but there's validity to it because of, like, at some point you were viewed as a super high end prospect, and then it sometimes just doesn't work out in college for whatever reason. But theoretically, you would have more upside than a 3-star who otherwise has the exact same profile.
Yeah. And I wish I could come up with examples off the top of my head, but I'm just not plugged into college recruiting. But I do know that has like worked out for teams where they grab a guy who's just unproductive in college, but was a 5-star as a late round pick. And it just kind of not like, didn't turn into a superstar or anything like that. But like, if a late round pick is on an NFL team for 3 years, that's a huge win. Right. Yeah. And when was Donovan Peoples-Jones picked?
Would have been 5th round. Would that have been 2020?
Yeah, so I think he had a career of longer than 5 years. So, and I believe he was a 5-star. If not, he was like a high 4-star, right?
People also thought he would go in like round 2, and then all of a sudden he was still available in round 5.
Well, his athleticism was nuts, crazy. Okay, he was a 5-star. His athleticism was obscene, so I get it. 5-star, 6th round pick. In the NFL still, actually. Wow, I thought he stopped being on a team after the Lions. No, he's on the Saints roster as we speak. So 5, possibly 6-year career as a 6th round pick. And so I think it's probably examples like that. And that's not necessarily fair because the Lions and the Saints may have signed him for the exact same reason instead of what he's done in the NFL. But I think that the fact that he even got on the field for the Browns, which in Browns adjusted terms is not a little bit less impressive. But the fact that he even got in the field as a 6th round pick is interesting. So I think that there are examples that NFL teams can point to, but I wonder if that's a good starting point to say, hey, maybe NFL teams are. I mean, because we even hear like GMs who we know have deep and complicated, and not to say Bill Belichick isn't one of those GMs. He obviously was. But like GMs that we know have deep and complicated processes for the ways that they rank players, will sometimes, when they're explaining, at least to the media, will kind of simplify it a little bit and talk again about the 5-star stuff. Laquan Treadwell, 1st round pick, terrible testing. Some of the worst testing we've seen for a wide receiver drafted in the 1st round. Much better. Like,
but he's Michael Irvin, though.
Right.
You didn't
Michael
think
Irvin.
About that.
Yeah, that's an important, and Norv Turner, it's perfect. Longtime Vikings offensive coordinator, Norv Turner. But one of the things that Spielman brought up specifically was that I believe he was a 5-star, but his college recruiting profile was off the charts. He had a crazy good freshman season. And then he had a little bit of a setback. He broke his whole leg Tiny setback. He's going to recover. This is the year. Mm-hmm. He's still in the league, I guess. So that's something.
It's amazing what being a former first round pick can give you.
Okay, so speaking of like Browns adjusted terms, in Jaguars adjusted terms, I believe he did lead that team in receptions one year.
Amazing.
And then they're like, we got to sign somebody, and they paid through the nose for Christian Kirk.
Amazing. Just a tremendous bit.
About the cornerback group, I do want to talk about Kobe King in a second, just because I'm curious. But the cornerback group is more intriguing to me, right? So we're pretty confident of 1 through 4 and in what order, right? So after Mekhi Blackman, we've got. This is probably the clearest I think a cornerback group has ever been, which means I'm going to be wrong. But it seems really obvious that both Dwight McLaughlin and Jemiah Vaughn are going to make the team, leaving us with one nickel backup in Mekhi Blackman, one nickel player in Byron Murphy, who's obviously just going to play all the snaps, but just be on the outside for base snaps. Is that, first of all, is that your read on it too? Is that just like the most obvious lock in the history of Vikings cornerback roster predictions? One, and then two, who do you think has performed better? Because I've got a take, but I want to hear yours first.
I think they're going to keep 6, and I think it's going to be the 6 that you mentioned. I do believe that the better one is going to be dependent on kind of what your preference is. Do you want a little bit more consistency, or are you okay with a little less and a little more high-end play? Because I think McLaughlin's been pretty up and down. Yeah. I think Vaughn's been relatively consistent. Hasn't really peaked super high, but he started off with the 2s and really hasn't left the 2s. And for a UDFA to be at that point, it tells you a lot about what they think of him.
Ivan Paces are super rare, and so I don't want that to undermine how rare what it is that Jemiah Vaughn did to consistently play with the 2s as a UDFA rookie. That is really impressive.
Well, Ivan Pace should have been a 4th round pick, but they were sizest. Like,
that's all 32 really the NFL teams.
That's really the only reason why he went undrafted. And what's really interesting is when you have a team like the Vikings who signs a guy like Ivan Pace and be like, well, he was what, 109th or 112th on your consensus board?
Somewhere around there, yeah. One of the highest, aside quarterback excluded, one of the highest undrafted consensus rank guys ever. Yeah. Or like, Carson Strongs and stuff like that, complicated.
What's really interesting about that is, well, why didn't they just draft him? Well, it turns out that the players that they did take were probably just ahead of him on the board. Not necessarily that they didn't view him as good enough. So he comes in as somebody who I thought was a 4th round pick. I thought he was limited in other areas, but what he was good at, you just put him in that role. I think he can thrive, and look at what he's done so far in Minnesota. And with a guy like Vaughn, there are 2 things that fascinate me about him. One, he was a high school quarterback, and the one high school quarterback that I always remember that transitioned super well to corner, Joe Hayden, played. Yeah, he was a quarterback in high school, won the starting job at Florida as a true freshman.
That's so crazy, dude.
Became one of the best corners of the last 20 years.
Hey, do you know if that Florida team was any good?
They just had a Heisman Trophy winner, won 2 natties, and would have won a third if Percy Harvin didn't go to the NFL early. That team?
Yeah, that team. I think they had like a couple of 1st round picks, 2 or 3.
Just a few. The
19?
The Pouncey twins, Tim Tebow, right. Percy Harvin, and that's not even including defense. Joe Hayden went top 10. I thought he was just phenomenal. But because he is a former quarterback, that gives you a little bit of an interesting advantage. It also, even though he was 5 years at Utah, he's still relatively new to the position where you can justify.
Well, he was recruited as a receiver, right? So he's a quarterback in high school, recruited as a receiver, switches to cornerback.
Yeah. You could justify having a 23-year-old slightly developmental guy as a UDFA because he never played the position in high school. There's still potential growth there. The other thing I found interesting looking at his profile, he dislocated his femur as a freshman in high school. So I wonder how much of that might have been medical. Obviously, some of the stuff we just don't know.
Right.
Because some of it gets underreported, which understandably you have to deal with HIPAA laws and all that kind of stuff. But
especially which like go, I don't know if this is legally true, but it feels like it goes double for like literal children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So I find him really interesting because if I'm surprised Pete Carroll didn't try and draft him, because he's got a profile that would just fit. That's
a very like Richard Sherman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is a guy you take at the end of day 3 and you see if you can extract some out of him. And like, I don't think he moves the best. I think his best trait is play zone, click and close. And when he moves forward, he's really good and he's a pretty good tackler, but he doesn't move laterally the best. And I think in what Brian Flores is going to ask him to do, I think it's a really good fit.
See, I think that's an interesting take. So I think I mostly agree with everything you said about McLaughlin versus Vaughn in terms of who's been up and down, who's been more consistent. And I was so curious about this because I had the take on the Viking squad show earlier that I thought neither Vaughn nor McLaughlin had good games against the Patriots. And everyone was surprised by that take. And so I went back to see like, hey, am I crazy? And I looked and some of the ones, some of the snaps that, he didn't play well, I don't care about. Like they put him in invert a lot where he's playing a ton of like too high safety. I talked about this on the last show. And some of those are just like, and he's not playing too high safety, but he's playing the too high safety role in cover 2. He's starting the snap at cornerback and he's backpedaling, right? And, him not doing the most amazing job in the world there is kind of whatever. He did make a mistake, I think, on 1 or 2 of those snaps, which in the preseason, just seeing that more than once is nuts in my mind. But I thought that his biggest problems against the Patriots, which I was exaggerating a little bit how poor his game was. I thought, if this is your cornerback 5, you're probably in a really good spot. But judging against starters, it was not a very good game at all. But I thought his worst performances were actually ones where he had to click and close, where he had to, trigger off of quarterback's eyes or the throw or a receiver landmark. And he was put in some difficult spots because of how unique the Viking zone system is. Mm-hmm. But I thought he actually did better against specifically the Patriots. I haven't looked at his Utah film. I haven't seen what he's done in practice. I didn't even pay that. I did take a look at the Texans stuff, but I didn't pay that much attention to the Texans game for this take because I just wanted to see like, hey, everyone was really confused by my take, so I gotta see. So in those 40 snaps, I think 20 of them were passes, and of those, there were a couple that were essentially man coverage. I can't know for sure because we've got this pattern matching stuff going on sometimes, and zones can look like man now. That sounded like Star Wars. They can fly now. They can fly now. Zones could look like man now. But I thought he looked best when he was doing man coverage stuff specifically in this game. So I find that really curious that that his profile suggests much more of an off zone guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think off zone guy is a perfect way to frame him. I would recommend, if you end up having time, to go watch his game against Arizona from this past year, where he faced off against Tetero and McMillan quite a bit.
Oh, and yeah.
He allowed 5 of 6 catches, but it was only for like under 70 yards and had a couple really good pass breakups throughout the course of it. I think it's a good representation.
Is he the reason I didn't cash my Fafita over?
It's very possible.
God. All right. I
would have told you to not bet a Fafita over. That's just a bad process.
I don't know anything about college football. Leave me alone.
Hey, I am about 50 games over 500 against the spread, so I can help you out.
And you haven't DM'd me once? God damn.
Well, we'll change that this year. I'm usually pretty good against the spread. Props. Go to Eric Froton. You'll make a lot of money. Just
that's true. Froton's really good at that. No. We're anti-gambling. No one likes gambling on this. Bad, Tyler.
To kind of wrap up the corner discussion, I want to ask you about Mekhi Blackman, because
not impressed.
He's played a lot, which I think is by design. I think that's important. I wonder if some of the lack of impressiveness that we just haven't seen from him. I wonder how much of that is mental, and he's just not comfortable with his knee yet. Because
I was wondering about that too, but like you watch the Patriots game and you see him play, and he's pretty physical.
Like the athleticism seems to be fine, but some of his decision making just feels off. Like the Efton Chisholm touchdown. Why is he going like 10 yards back on mesh?
That was nuts, dog.
To me, that raises a big red flag. Why are you doing that? And I think the why might be maybe he's just not super comfortable in every sense, and he's taking the long way around so he doesn't have to put as much tension on that knee.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if there's a confidence issue.
I wonder. Yeah, that's curious. The Vikings haven't really built out a solution to if their nickel situation gets drastically worse really quickly. So I guess it's Jay Ward. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Hey, Ward has been having an interesting preseason.
They haven't had him in the slot. That was bad last year. They just ran him at corner like every practice, and he just kept getting obliterated. It was not good.
All right, super quick on the linebackers, and then you can tell me about the punting competition, and then we can bounce.
Sweet.
So, what do you think about the backup linebackers?
So if you look at, I'll start here. If you look at Austin Keys, that dude looks like an NFL linebacker.
Okay, that's great. Because I had to take out Austin Keys on the last show, and I was like, no one is talking about this guy, and he's racking up the most tackles. And then you watch him play, and it's like, it's not that he's just giving up completions and then getting the tackle. He's like, I don't know that he can cover, but he's like tackling.
Yeah, and like this dude has the body type of like Greg Biekert. Just he looks.
Your polls are insane, dude.
I know. It's hilarious that I keep getting called old all the time, but it kind of works.
You're like younger than me, and the group chat is talking about you like you survived the Great Depression. It's incredible.
Well, when you have like no friends growing up, you turn to sports, and my brain retained everything, baby. So he's got that physical build of a linebacker. I think he fits the run well enough. I would want to keep him on the practice squad. I don't think he's better than Kobe King, who, oddly enough, Brian Flores compared to Pepper Johnson, and that popped me.
Talk
Pepper
about
Johnson,
goals, dude.
rules.
That was laser designed for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pepper Johnson, for those who don't know, he was linebacker for the New York Giants. I believe he was the linebacker in Bill Belichick's late defenses in New York, and then played for the franchise into the early mid-90s. Just a physically imposing football player. He wants to come down.
He coached for Belichick for like over a decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He wants to come downhill, and he wants to pop you in the mouth, and he's real good at it. And I think Kobe King has done a lot of that. I think he's been okay-ish in coverage, which I think is better than I expected because I thought he was just bad at it at Penn State. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's been okay-ish in the preseason gives me hope. And I do think it's important that he played the whole game against the Patriots and he had the green dot. And that
okay, alone, but like someone has to have it.
I know, but they've been working with him on it during practice, and he's had it. I don't know if we got word on if he was good with it.
We thought fair, yeah.
We thought Ivan Pace was going to have the green dot last year, and then all of a sudden Blake Cashman got it right before the Giants game. So,
which, like, by the way, inspired, right?
Very good decision. Yeah. No offense to Pace, but very good decision. So I like King. I think at the very worst, like for what he is right now, he's going to be a special team stumper. He's probably not going to get him much at all during the regular season, which I think is more than okay. And I think he's a good developmental piece because eventually you're going to have to sign Pace to an extension or you're going to have to sign Cashman to an extension. So theoretically, he will take one of their places. And by the time he's actually ready to do that, you'll have to move on from one of those guys. And I think that's a good way to do business. Do we think that
Ivan Pace, and this is not to disrespect Ivan Pace, but do we think Ivan Pace is really going to break the bank?
I think he could break the bank for what the Vikings would be willing to pay. I mean, I don't think I give him more than like $8 to $10 million, but maybe he thinks he's worth more and somebody will give him like 13 on the open market, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. I just looked up Frankie Louvu's contract and it's 12.5. So,
yeah. So it depends
no,
on
it's
how
10-3.
much.
It's just 12.5 this year. Okay. 10-3. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It depends on how much the Vikings value him from a dollar amount perspective. And that's going to be really intriguing because
they do have some choices coming up around the exact same time that the Ivan Pace thing is a conversation. So,
yeah, well, it's a conversation next year because he's going to be on a restricted tender. So what do you do?
That's what you just get. Like, that's a $3 million contract. You don't got to worry about that.
Yeah.
But you might have like a real conversation about an extension.
Yeah, and I think he'll take over for one of those guys. I think Pace is a little too specialized for what, like, I think when he's in there with Cashman and they ask him to do the things he's great at, he's just been a tremendous difference maker, especially in the run game, because he can get underneath offensive linemen, which is just wild.
Yeah.
But when he played the Cashman role, he was just bad.
Yeah, well, that's why I looked at Frankie Louvu's contract specifically, because like I don't think they have the same traits, like skill set wise, but they play the same role essentially. Yeah, and signing for 10-3 and then you adjust for cap inflation 1-2 years out, I could see him trying to get 12.5, 13. That's a tough one. And in that case, it's like, I don't know that you can replace Ivan Pace specifically with somebody like Kobe King, but you can get like 80% of the way there, I would think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they develop this. This whole situation is why I also advocated regularly for the Vikings to just take Jahad Campbell, because his ability in this defense would have just been incredible. I think it could have been a level of impact like we saw Anthony Barr have with Mike Zimmer, because you don't ever have to take Campbell off the field. He can cover, he can run up the seam, he can drop, he can blitz, he can fit the run. Like these, with how the run game is trending right now, Arif, where you're seeing a lot of teams go oops all three technique defensive lines and having smaller, faster linebackers, to be able to have a bigger guy who can fit the run and also run in coverage is just such a valuable piece. And I think if King can develop enough when it comes to coverage, I think you're looking at a potential starter here.
I mean, like, that's part of the reason Ivan Pace went undrafted, right? Is that if you're a smaller linebacker, the book is that you should be good in coverage. Now, that's not always the case. Telvin Smith got drafted, which he's a bad person. We don't got to talk about his off field. But but Telvin Smith, with a 215-pound linebacker, run first, not great in coverage, got drafted early. Not like first round or anything like that, but like he was like a draft pick. And that's just like a weird prototype to deal with. So I think it's not just like sizeist, right? Which is fair, but like size, role, combination, where Ivan Pace is like not a coverage guy. And at that size, it's weird. It's tough to teach coverage. It's really, like, I think it's probably easier to teach, being good against the run. It's just, if you're not good against the run, that's more likely a product of your physical capabilities, your attitude, more than it is a product of your ability to pick up what you need to do to be good at the run, which is not to say it's not complicated, but coverage is just so difficult.
Yeah, it is. I think being able to take a guy at the end of the 6th round at a surplus on your consensus board is a win.
Yeah.
If he never develops beyond a special teamer, I think
a 6th rounder, you're fine.
You're still comfortable with that. Yeah. But the potential to be a starter, I think, is there. And I think that's a win if they can ever get anything out of him from that perspective.
All right. Do you have a thought on the punting competition? I heard today that it was neck and neck.
I think Chapman wins it. And I say that for two reasons. One, even though Ryan Wright has $650,000 fully guaranteed, they'll end up saving, I think, $10,000, or it's either $10,000 or $60,000 by having Chapman over Wright.
Oh, okay. So even though he's got a high guarantee, no matter what happens, it's a savings. Got it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And Chapman, he held on the last 3 field goals.
Yeah, that's like a really critical element of this.
Yeah, and that's something that you and I both know, but I don't think everybody else knows. It's not just about punting. And in the joint practices, the punting drills that we got to see, Ryan Wright bombed them in a bad way, and Chapman was good. So how much of that was they were asking Wright to just do corner stuff, but he was doing the
which has
corner.
Been part of the conversation is that they've been asking Wright to do corner. Like that's important. That's a thing that they've been asking. But
they were going out at like the 30. Like you can't be doing that, man. So the fact that they're going out at the 30 is a problem. And with Chapman, now he's got the confidence of Reichard reportedly as a holder, but you could see that the holds were clean and smooth in the multiple field goals that we got to see on Saturday. I think he wins that battle, and I think that they're pretty comfortable with that.
Exciting. All right. Because I had written Chapman off entirely. Not that I was ever super confident in Wright, but like we know how these things go generally. Yeah, super curious. Okay, cool. Any takes that you felt a desire to just kind of put out there that I hadn't given you an opportunity with this setup to put out there?
Yeah, Max Brosmer rules, man.
Oh, I totally forgot. Oh, man.
We got to talk about him. And I think I put out a take because I got to do a bunch of videos for A to Z Sports. Shout out my workplace. Like this dude kind of feels Brock Purdy coded in a way.
Oh my God. You now, always do this, man.
Oh, hold on. I have a right to elaborate. They were both undervalued for multiple different reasons, but they each
Dante Fleming is Adam Thielen. All right.
They each went to the perfect place for him that can maximize what they do well. Where Brock Purdy, he's a good anticipator over the middle, and he's a good just like point guard, which is exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants, and I think that's why it's worked as well as it has.
One super quick question, and this actually has nothing to do with the validity of your take, because I think as you're explaining it, I kind of get what the through line is, even as absurd as it sounds. But I just, as an aside, did Brock Purdy seem like that guy in college at all?
No, no, he didn't. That's the wild thing. I remember he was the last pick. I'm like, why would you waste a draft pick on Iowa State Brock Purdy, where the last living memory of him was in the Cheez-It Bowl, where he threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, he was Minshewing harder than Minshew, dude. It's crazy the way he played.
It was like he had an entire can of Skol in his lip at once. Just incredible stuff. But he ended up going to a spot that was so perfect for him in San Francisco for what he was actually able to do, even though he didn't show it at Iowa State. And I think Brosmer has that kind of coded thing with him because he was one of the best throwers over the middle of the field at the college level last year. And I think he was a little too conservative. And with how O'Connell's brain works, I think they're going to be able to extract a little bit more out of him. And I don't think he'll ever be more than like a backup, but I do think there's a world where if he
like
had
Brock
to come
Purdy.
in,
got it.
Yeah, if he had to come in and play a couple games like next year, I think there's a chance that he plays well enough where you can win both of those games. Like I think so much about getting a quarterback is the right fit. Like the Colts took Anthony Richardson and ended up being an absolutely terrible fit for a lot of reasons. Some of those were his fault, but fit matters almost as much as talent. And because he's a great fit, I think that's why he's performing as well as he has, because at the practices I'm at, he's making most of those throws to Dante Fleming, by the way. And he's
all four of Dante Fleming's reps come from Max Brosmer.
He's showing out in the limited chances he gets. He gets like 3 reps. One of them's a handoff, and he's throwing like the 4th and 17 to Jashawn Jones. He threw like that exact same concept in practice a couple days prior, like a deep in route layered over the linebacker. Like he's doing this in the limited chances he gets. And then when he gets a long period of time, he plays well.
That Miles Price throw in the first preseason game was obscenely good.
There's something with him where I think he's earned QB3. And what's fascinating is, one, I don't think he wins the QB2 job. But when he was asked about the backup quarterbacks, he didn't rule out that Brosmer couldn't be QB2.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I thought that was really interesting. I think Brosmer's got something. He was arguably the best quarterback at the Shrine Bowl. And I thought he should have gotten drafted in like round 6 or 7.
You heard it here. Better than Cam Miller. Man, fraud.
You know what? I liked Cam Miller.
This is a uniquely difficult year for NDSU takes for me, so I have to get them in. Because these offensive linemen are starting to show out. This is tough.
Hey, Gray's Able, powered by God's Beer, Busch Light. Let's go. I'm really interested to see how Brosmer continues to develop, because I think everybody in the world knows that I was very, very, very high on Jaron Hall. But I tried to be nuanced with the take where I thought there was still only a 5 to 10% chance where he becomes a viable starter in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I still think if he doesn't get that concussion against Atlanta, things turn out differently.
No.
We'll never know.
I will know. And I'm telling you right now, no.
Go Bison. I think Brosmer's got a shot to be something. What that something is going to be completely up to him and the opportunities that he's provided. But there is a correlation to what Brock Purdy was before he became the starter to where I have a lot of intrigue about his future.
Fair enough. I read your piece on him after the first game, and I thought you were overstating the level of anticipation that he showed in the first game. And I went back and I was right, so don't worry about that. But it was impressive, right? Like that post throw over the middle. Whew. But yeah, I think that what he's demonstrating is much more than we typically see out of undrafted free agent quarterbacks, especially with the Vikings. Long history of just having a camp body show up. Is it Wes Lund, right? And Tyler Vandenberg and Nate Stanley was a 7th round pick, actually. But like these guys that just like show up and you're like, hey, man, I hope you get some merch on your way out, dude. That's great. Technically Danny Etling, but that doesn't count because it was like a COVID thing.
Nate Stanley just filed a lawsuit. That's what his parting gift was.
That's right. I think he was correct.
Did we ever get a resolution on that? Because I know sometimes those take years.
I want to say the Vikings settled. It's like so for those, I think I talked about this on the show, but for those unfamiliar, there was like a dispute about whether or not he got injured while he was with the Vikings or in the off season, right? And if he's injured in non-Vikings related activity, they don't owe him any money, right? And so that was the lawsuit. And from what I can tell, he's right. I thought they settled. The Wikipedia page doesn't say anything, but I thought I saw like a Pio Press article or something like that. Not what's checking out right now, but
so I have over the cap up.
Yeah.
So his dead money history was he had 77,000 cash paid. In 2022, he then had 172,000 in dead cap, and the Vikings got credited 100,000 the year after. So he basically got about 70 grand. Okay,
yeah, because the 172 was a provisional that the NFL put in while the issue was being investigated. So that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. Incredible. I hate Iowa quarterbacks, right? As is my right. And I only wish the worst for him kind of broadly. But you know what? Like, go get yours, dude. Excellent work. I'm glad that you got another 70 out of the org.
So I have a question for you, because this year's Iowa quarterback is a guy named Mark Gronowski. Do you know who Mark Gronowski is?
That name sounds so familiar, man.
I think he's beaten NDSU a total of 4 times. He just transferred from South Dakota State.
Yeah.
So he hates NDSU, and now he goes to Iowa. What is your opinion?
He's God's gift to quarterbacks. Wait, come on. Man, is he starting for Iowa?
Yeah, and he's probably going to be the best Iowa quarterback since like Drew Tate.
Okay,
he's
again,
actually good.
These are like low bars. Like, okay, Tommy Mellott, best Montana State quarterback in history. Like, okay,
respect the Bobcats, Arif.
Yeah, that really wasn't fair, and Mellott is amazing. But no, I can shelve the Iowa hate for a true patriot like this one.
Fair enough. He's going to be one to watch. He's good, like actual good quarterback that just happens to play at Iowa, kind of good.
That's great. He should have gone literally anywhere else, not for personal reasons, but for like himself. They got rid of the Sun offensive coordinator, right? The Nepo coordinator.
2 years ago, the guy they hired, I can't remember his name, but he came from Western Michigan, and he brought an offense that was going to be like heavy RPOs and stuff, and then they just run the Iowa offense.
Oh my God, dude! All right,
I can't make it up, man.
No, I think Gradowski was the quarterback when I was No, I was at JMU a while. I meant the game. I didn't obviously attend, but I was at the homecoming game when the Vikings played the Ravens in the first year they had all those crazy comebacks. Do you remember what year that was?
So the last time they played the Ravens would have been 21.
Yeah. Okay. So he was not yet he was, right? He was the quarterback for the 21. No, he didn't play that year.
It was Oladokun.
Okay. Crazy. Okay. Yeah. A bunch of JMU guys in the stands of that homecoming game were checking the scores of the NDSU game. And I love it. They hated NDSU just as much as I did. That rule.
I worked across the street from the Fargo Dome when JMU beat NDSU in the semifinals. That was a somber night. But Beautiful. I will say, the JMU fans were very respectful, which I'm sure disappoints you.
What? No. Is it gracious in wins and absolute dickholes in losses? That's my philosophy.
That's a fair one.
All right, man. Tell the people where they can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at The Real Forno. I host The Real Forno Show on Vikings First and Skol, both the YouTube channel and the podcast feed, every Monday and Thursday. We're going to have some extra episodes throughout the course of the season, including taking my former Score North show, Meat and Potatoes, and we're going to do, I think I'm going to call it X's and Skulls because that's just very punny, and talk about some of the more in-depth things from the film about the Vikings. And it's a lot of fun. You can also find my written work at A to Z Sports and more video stuff on the Vikings A to Z Sports YouTube channel, TikTok feed, Instagram. I don't do all the distribution. I just know there's a bunch of ways to find it. And
yeah, they find ways to plaster your face and voice everywhere.
They do. And if you want a hub, I've got my own Discord server, Vikings First and Skol, where I post everything.
Dude,
and I have bots to do it for
server.
me.
What the hell? Oh wait, no, am I?
No, you're not. But I invited you and you didn't accept.
That's crazy.
I think my flaw was I dropped it in the group chat during a serious debate about something really stupid or somebody's love life or something.
Oh, you can't be doing it during love life talk, dude.
No, I know.
Dude, so for people who don't know, when me and Katzen talk about our dating lives, it just turns into the craziest sitcom, and other members of the group chat go over the day's proceeds with their multiple people do this with their significant others and update them on my dating life and Katzen's dating life. It's like the serious stuff. I can't believe you would drop a Discord invite in the middle of that.
Well, it's extra funny because when I tell my wife about this stuff, she's actually met both of you.
She must be like, how are so many people interested in this guy? What are we talking about?
Because it's I've never had an exciting dating life. And before I was married, it's just hilarious to me that people can actually have this kind of just wildness with their dating life.
Well, mine's calmed down, but thankfully, Katzens has ramped up. So it's kind of a push and pull the universe always provides.
Yin and yang, baby.
All right, man. Thanks so much for previewing the Titans game with me. Peace out.
James is going to love this.
Yeah.
Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of... and he can be found on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN or at my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merch. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, we thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
All things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.